guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell by the title, we're going to be diving into Andrew Tate's War Room, all about it, the secrets behind it, different things like that. So before I get into all of like the undercover stuff, we're going to start off I'm just going to tell you what it is really, just the details, average information behind the War Room, just, your general information about it. So the war room basically is made up of upper class men or men who want to be like Tate and inspired to be like him, like your average kind of male will be in this room as well. Obviously, depending on how, rich I guess you are and how close you are to Tate, you have access to different things. Now, you do have to pay about $8,000 to enter the war room, and then you do have to pay a fee every couple of months to stay in the war room. So, if you don't pay, you will be kicked out of the war room, and you also can be kicked out of the war room at any time, and it's all part of like the contract you're basically signing when you enter the war room. Now, there are other courses in the war room. Once you're accepted, there are other courses that you have to pay for, or I guess hard to pay for. So different things like dating, money, that kind of stuff almost. So you can pay for those different courses and chat rooms and things like that. Now, within the war room, there is like a hierarchy system. So people closest to Tate are going to be at the top, right? They're going to be access to fancy dinners, meetings, all that kind of stuff. As you go down, it becomes more average people. And at the bottom, it's just your newer members, general members, things like that. And those people really, I feel like, it's nothing crazy. I mean, yes, you meet connections and things like that, but it is all online chat rooms as opposed to like all of the crazy meetings you see Andrew Tate kind of flexing about this war room. So, next thing we're talking about the war room is Iggy. Now, he is a very interesting part of the war room. So, I feel like this is going to be a little bit, it's very interesting. I'm not going to lie. He is an interesting person. So Iggy is a hypnotist and is alleged to be the actual leader of the war room as opposed to Tate being the leader. Now, before the war room and everything, Iggy did sell courses to Western men on how to get Japanese women. So you can see a little bit of an overlap there with the courses.
Self-proclaimed greatest pickup artist in the world. He sold courses teaching Western men to seduce Japanese women.
Now, it's alleged that Iggy and Tate first met each other in 2018, and not too long after they met, Andrew Tate started his university by, selling these courses, similar to what Iggy was doing. And then a year after that, they did form the War Room. So, it definitely seems like the timeline that we're getting that Iggy and Tate, Iggy had a little bit of a influence with Tate. And I'm not saying he, whatever. But it definitely seemed like what Iggy did definitely influenced Tate into do what he was kind of doing. Now, a family member connected to Iggy stated that when Iggy was younger, he was actually a part of two different cults. Now, these cults are very similar. In the clip I'll show you, they'll mention the cults' names. I don't know how to say them, so I'm not going to.
Armed with his real name, we've managed to speak to a family connection of Iggy.
So Miles was really smart. He never went to high school. He ditched it as much as he could, but he was really smart in it. In the 80s, Miles was involved in like a cult or two. One was Maharishi.
The Maharishi's leader believed he was directly spoken to by the gods, and former members have since claimed it was a cult.
And the other was the Bhagwan.
The Bhagwan, also known as Rajneesh, was another Indian-based meditation cult featured in the Netflix series Wild Wild Country.
But yes, he was a part of them allegedly. So yet again, kind of leads to the idea, is the War Room his own version of a cult? You never know. And then another thing is, there's a book called The Scarlet Citadel. I don't even know how to say it. It's like Citadel or something like that. That's probably butchered. But this is a book that Iggy mentions a lot. And when you look at the book, if you look at the book and some things in the War Room, you will see overlap, which is definitely interesting because obviously maybe there was some inspiration from this book because, like I said, Iggy does push this book a lot, mentions it a lot of the times.
And it gets even weirder. Iggy frequently mentions a fantasy novel called The Scarlet Citadel, in which an evil wizard who looks strangely similar to him wears a ring featuring a snake's head of the same kind worn by the senior members of the War Room, including the ones who recruited Amanda and Maria. The wizard trades in girl slaves and is the real power behind the throne of the Cobra King in Koth. So while the authorities in the world's media are looking at the Tate brothers in Romania, this wizard man who appears to have created the cult of Andrew Tate and instructed its members how to groom women is walking free.
So now we're going to be getting into all the behind the scenes stuff within the War Room. So there was a fight that some War Room members could say that they would participate in, and it was against a professional fighter.
Now is decision time. You are getting in the cage to fight a professional fighter who is trained to hurt you. Anyone who is fighting, please stand up. Anyone who is not fighting, you can stay seated, and we will begin the other program.
Just like that, a third of the room decides to get beaten up for Andrew Tate. What happens to the people who said no?
They're doing something slightly different, describing the reasons they didn't do it, how that affects their life as a whole, whether they're gonna make any changes in the future to be more ready for opportunities. That's where honor comes from, right? From victory.
Now, after all the fights went down, some people did end up saying no. So afterwards, Matt, who was doing this interview with Vice, interviewed the one guy that said no, and the guy said he said no because he was scared because he has been in the ring before. But afterwards, he realized he kind of regretted saying no and that he wasn't going to do it.
One of the men who said no agrees to speak to us as long as we hide his face. Why did you say no?
I have been in the ring before, but just sparring. But I was like, fuck, professionals and Russians, like they guys are serious. I was just too scared. So then afterwards, I felt bad about myself and I was angry at myself because I came here to be tested.
Andrew Tate has obviously said a lot of kind of controversial things online.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
A lot of things are very controversial, but I think the bottom of his message is a very, very positive one. Because if I'm not tough on myself, nobody else will be. Nobody really cares about me if I don't care about me, right? That's what I learned from Andrew Tate.
Now, while Matt was interviewing other War Room members, he did have a chaperone following him, kind of to monitor the questions that Matt was asking other War Room members. Now, afterwards, they had celebrations and stuff, and the film crew were not allowed to film these celebrations or really be present during them, so they don't really know exactly what happened. But they did see in one room, and it looked to be women that were naked getting pictured in the room. Who knows what was going on, what was happening kind of thing, because yet again, they couldn't film, and it was kind of definitely being kept a secret and kept away from the public.
For the people who want to stay and relax, there's some chicks, don't know where they're from. Yeah, let's have fun. I hope you all enjoyed it.
We're told not to film the celebrations that conclude the evening, and it's not clear exactly what goes on. But once outside the lobby, we could clearly see a room containing naked women being photographed.
So, men in the War Room have been bragging about using the PhD method, which, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a degree that you could get through Hustlers University or whatever it's called now. I don't know. I think it's changed a couple times. And it was just like how to basically exploit women and make them to make money for you.
It's difficult to know when members are simply bragging, but these encrypted messages show the men in the war room feeding back to Tate and the generals how they were putting into action the teachings from the PhD course. They call this showing receipts. Also brag about their control over women by sharing examples of the punishments they've meted out on them.
Now, there were also leaked messages of Iggy encouraging War Room members to use this method on girls, and he was seen encouraging it and telling them you should do it.
The person who appears to push the PhD course most frequently to members is the war room general and self-proclaimed wizard called Iggy Semmelweis. From his messages, manipulating women into sex work seems central to the war room's agenda. It's well known that Tate himself is under investigation for using the Loverboy method to coerce women into sex work. But the evidence suggests that it isn't just Tate allegedly using this method. The war room generals are actively teaching it to members, making this potentially much wider than we thought.
Now, there was this war room general named Jonathan Bowe, and he was like a pilot of some sort. Now, he had allegations made against him by someone who went under the name Amanda. Now, this is not her real name. It's like a cover name used to protect her identity. She stated how he convinced her into webcamming, and she didn't really want to do it in the first place. Almost like she alleged kind of like what the PhD kind of tells men to do.
The man Amanda claims groomed her into online sex work is one of the war room generals, Jonathan Bowe, aka the Money Pilot, because he's a retired US Air Force pilot and currently works for Delta.
I had been chatting with this guy that I met on Tinder, and we had been talking for like a couple months about like wanting to meet. You know, I was 21, and, you know, I wasn't making any money. I was young and in a very vulnerable position. I didn't feel like I myself had a lot to offer, so this like older guy kind of being into me was attractive. And we met and we like went out on a date. I wouldn't really say it was much of a date. He like picked me up and we went to like a hotel room and slept together. And the next morning he sent me a text. He asked me if I was interested in working with him on webcam. I kind of knew of webcam, but not really. And I instantly was like, no, like, I don't want to do it. I have no interest in this.
Up until that first mention of webcam, he had portrayed himself as someone who was romantically interested in you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in your mind, this was a date, a relationship.
Yeah, it was. And I continued seeing this guy, like, we chatted all the time. He was really sweet and just kind of like a nice person to have in my life. And if I would complain about anything in my life, he'd be like, well, I have a solution for you. I felt like I had no control over my life. He has control of everything, so is it like worth it to leave? Sex was my reward. I was giving 80% away. In total, like $95,000. If I wasn't doing well, things would become more violent. There was a night that I had gone over there, and as soon as I walked in the door, he like pushed me to my knees and like smacked me really hard across the face.
Now, there was also another allegation made by someone named Maria, which yet again is a cover name to keep her identity secret. Now, she made an allegation against a different war room member, and the name was never stated, so we don't know exactly who this member was.
Thousands of miles away in Buenos Aires, a woman we are calling Maria has a similar story. She met the man who she says groomed her when she was 20.
It all started when I matched with a random guy, a cute one on Tinder. He told me, let's go out, let's have dinner. After that, I was like young and I didn't knew or experience something like that before. He was my first boyfriend. At that time, I was really in love with this person. And it was the first time I ever felt this connection. I remember he saying, you seem like a girl that is going to help me a lot. And he kept repeating that. Like, you're going to help me, you don't know how yet, but you're going to do so, and you're going to be glad that you do it. And then, I think 1 month or maybe 2 months out of dating, and he asked me, hey, you want to do an elephant?
I think it was like, okay, I think I might like be interested in like webcamming.
And do you realize now that that was his intention all along?
Yes, yes. He used sex a lot to manipulate me.
Now, there was also a leaked video of Andrew Tate, Justin Waller, and Cooper Sterling basically telling the war room men how to isolate their girl, how to get her away from, her friends, how to cut her off from her friend group, because they have a bad influence of her, is basically their whole, like, excuse for trying to cut her off from her friends and things like that, and to isolate her, really, like I said.
You have to be very careful with this, and I'm very careful when I talk about this, because I don't want anyone to get autistic about it, right? But if you really want to truly solo up a chick, she's yours. And when I say she's yours, I mean she's basically with you, her family, your family. That's basically it, right? If she has like a really strong social circle and she really insists on seeing them, they're going to have a big influence over her. And it is in your best interest to get her away from that social circle. So you're trying to solo her, right? We don't want her out with whoever saying whoever. And then women can't shut the fuck up either. They'll talk your business. They'll give their side of the story only. You're a bad guy now. My husband wouldn't do that, even though the bitch is lying just to try and flex. You know what I mean? It gets in their head, right? So you have to try and isolate them from those things. And the things we've talked about thus far, like selling a dream, adding excitement, her never catching you slipping, all these things tie into isolating her and taking her away from the outside influences.
One way that I isolate my girl to be only in my frame and not have her friends have influence is I attack her friend's frame. So we get in the truck, and like, she ain't saying anything. Well, of course she's not. She doesn't respect it. And didn't she the one that said she wanted to go to Vegas on a girls trip? Yeah. She doesn't respect it. Trash. Yeah, trash. And I'll just attack every one of her friends because I think it's easy because every one of her friends' men are fucking pussies. Yep. So it's all right there. They're an example of what we're teaching not to be. So it's easy to penetrate it. Yep. And the next thing you know, my girl is coming to me almost as if she thinks I'm going to forget that I told her this, telling me like, I told her that she must not respect a man. I did not know that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I know that. Good job. Yeah. You know, I'm proud of you. Yeah. And that's all she really wants. Yep. Is for me to be proud of her. So once those things are installed and you get to whatever you're talking about, where she looks at you like a hero, all she wants to do is make you proud of her.
Now, next thing we'll be doing is, next thing we're going to be talking about is talking about people's stories and personal experiences with the war room. I just want to clarify too, before we get into it, there have been positive stories. I didn't cover those because, yet again, there's nothing to that to really talk about. So there's positives out there, but made by other people. So in Jordan Welsh's video that he did do on the war room, he joined it basically, and there was a non-disclosure agreement that you had to sign before joining the war room, and it basically stated how if you share the secrets of the war room, you are liable to be sued, and by millions, really, millions of dollars for damages and things like that.
Get inside, I have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I'm not gonna lie, this makes me a little scared to keep doing this video, but let's check it out. That's crazy. I don't think I'm allowed to share this document with you guys, so I'm definitely not gonna do that. But basically, they're saying if I reveal anything that's inside of the war room, I'm liable for millions of dollars in damages. No joke. It's kind of scary, and it makes you wonder what they're possibly trying to hide inside of there. I mean, I'm not saying that there's anything bad, but that is such a crazy amount to threaten people with. But I already paid, so there's no turning back now. Let's sign this document.
Now, another person who shared their experiences in the war room was Eli. Now, Eli allegedly used to work for Tate and was a former war room member. Now, he shared a lot of information about the war room that really was kind of unknown. Now, the first one is a little bit more known. It's kind of spread around a lot. Andrew Tate himself says it a lot, but basically the war room believes that women should serve men, and how the PhD helps men to get women to serve them, and just how to actually lure women into that. So it gives them some guidance on how to reach what the war room really spreads.
When you talk about women, are you talking about just sleeping with women or establishing a relationship?
Absolutely not. The war room is all about you getting women that serve you in your life, that benefit.
What do you mean serve you?
So the war room has a methodology called the PhD, the Pimping Host Degree. Although it was removed from our website, and although it's no longer officially called that, which is find a woman that's attracted to you, and obviously sleep with her, and eventually you put her through a sort of Pavlovian conditioning where for her to get your attention, she has to complete tasks, then bigger tasks, and eventually her whole world becomes you, and she has nothing else except you, and she completely serves you completely. quote unquote, you could call it a slave. She has to do more things for you, whether it's, wash the dishes, do errands for you, or eventually do OnlyFans webcam, which was encouraged inside of the war room.
Now, something that was not known to the public is Eli claimed that the war room wants you to cut off anybody outside of the war room, like family, friends, other people who are not in the war room circle, because, they want you to stay only with people in the war room, because the war room, these are all smart, thinking individuals in this room. So the idea is to cut everyone out, because if they're not in the war room, they don't have not even your best interest, but just not similar, I guess.
One of the members inside the war room, Iggy, Hui, he goes under a few different names, tells you that your new brothers inside of the war room are your new life. Everyone else before that, it doesn't matter. We have here the truth of life, and if you want to follow us, you have to, quote unquote, kill your parents symbolically, because they may not agree with the things that you're learning here, but it will impede you from moving forward inside of our organization if you do not kill your parents. And I thought that was a very scary thing. But at the moment, I actually believed it, believe it or not. I was so brainwashed. The war room and the events.
It's very weird to me if that is true. That's definitely a little bit strange to do. It definitely is a little bit cult-like. Now, another thing that Eli did state is he stated how Iggy is at the top of the war room. He really is. He's the true leader of the war room.
Who's in charge
of the war room? Iggy is at the top, yeah. But he definitely, when you spoke to him, he definitely had an agenda. He definitely influenced you in ways that were not of your own thinking.
Now, this was rumored, like I mentioned earlier, that he was the top guy at the war room, and Tate was more of like a figurehead and just to pull more people in, because Tate is obviously way more popular than Iggy. Most people don't even know who Iggy is. You say, oh, do you know who Iggy, and then his last name, whatever it is, people wouldn't know. If you say, do you know who Andrew Tate is, you'll be like, oh, yeah, sure. A lot of people know him. So, of course, you want to give the war room more of a, bigger face. Now, another thing Eli said is he said it is a slow process to be in the cult. That's what he said. So, yeah, he's saying that it's not a quick process to be in with them, and it does take time, and it takes a lot of building on us, obviously. You're not just going to automatically be in, super tight with Andrew Tate. You need to, unless you're already a millionaire and already, well established, it's going to take a while.
It's a gradual process. It's not overnight where someone becomes indoctrinated into the cult that is the war room. It's a slow process, and it comes like a thief at night. You don't even notice it. Next thing you know, you're going to all the events and you're basically part of the cult.
Now, in Eli's words, what a cult is, it's kind of like removing individuality and kind of having to just go with whatever and not really having much of a say how things go and what's happening, really. Kind of just having to follow blindly, almost, really.
Cult, I would say it's a negative word, because that means it removes your individuality, removes your humanity. It means you're part of a cohort in which you have no say in the way things are going and there's agenda, and you're no longer human. You are part of a machine. And I don't think that's the right way that humans should live.
Then, the last kind of bit of information that he shared is he shared that within the war room, because of the amount of connections they have and how many people are in the war room, they have people who work for different social media companies in the war room. So if someone's been posting about Andrew Tate, hating on him, and say they're getting a lot of publicity, Andrew Tate and the war room members can then contact these people that are in the war room that deal with these social media platforms and say, hey, let's go send a bunch of people to comment on them. Let's go hype a bunch of Andrew Tate stuff and kind of stuff like that. They can get posts deleted, things like that, because they just have a lot of connections when it comes to social media employees due to the fact that there are social media employees in the war room. So obviously there's a connection.
We have many Twitter employees, we have Instagram employees, TikTok employees. When we want to, we can delete an account, but our preferred method of choice, because deleting is kind of harsh. For small accounts, we can just mark them and that's it, and nobody really cares. But for bigger accounts, we use a thing called PR marketing campaigns and narrative control, meaning that we have big accounts that side with us. We have many smaller, real-looking, human-like accounts.
Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is why it possibly could be a cult, why the war room has shown some signs of it maybe being a cult. So, the first reason is Andrew Tate has actually shown open support for Joseph Kony. And if you don't know who Joseph Kony is, he was a cult leader pretty well-known one.
And the reason I got this t-shirt made is because I have a lot of respect for Coney. Now I know, okay, he's a warlord, whatever. But Coney is a G.
I personally don't really necessarily, and maybe I know, I'm forgetting who he is. I think I know who he is, but I might be mixing him up with somebody else. But yeah, Tate has been shown to, show support for him. Another thing is Tate has said that he believes some of his tactics are similar to tactics that Hitler used.
Everything must happen instantly, quickly, fast, speed, attack. Hitler conquered Europe with blitzkrieg. You need to go quickly.
Now, you can say, Hitler wasn't necessarily a cult leader in the sense of how most people think of a cult leader. You could say that he had a lot of you could say he was, because he influenced a lot of people in what he said, what he did. A lot of people stood behind him and believed what he was saying. So you could argue in that kind of way that he definitely had those abilities, like a cult leader almost. Now, one of the biggest reasons too is a lot of what Eli did say. If that was true, it's definitely a good, it's some good evidence, because a lot of what it says sounds like what happens in a cult. Now, I don't know if this is true. Obviously, this is just what he was claiming. I don't know if what he said was true, and I'll never know if what he said was true. So you gotta take that as you will. Okay, so we are going to be watching the War Room trailer and commentating and giving my views on it. I didn't really watch it, so let's jump into that. So okay, so I'm gonna start the video.
This is the Iron Shadows.
So it looks like we got some fighting going on, that's a big thing with Andrew Tate, with the whole kickboxing and things like that. That's definitely a huge part of him, and I feel like a lot of we got Iggy right there. That's the hypnotist shooting fire out of his hand, I guess. Yeah, he can do that. So yeah, that's Iggy. That's the one that got a lot of stuff about him.
This is the War Room.
I just have to stop. Look at how they're all standing. It looks like it's a little bit intimidating. They're all straight face, big broad shoulders, all wearing black, all standing. And notice how Iggy is rising above them almost. Maybe also leading to the fact that he is the real leader of the War Room, how he's propped up, high.
Warriors.
Got some training, I guess. No, I'm not sure if this is the full trailer. I can't just find the trailer, but we got some working out anyway. So some guys training, yet again, another thing the War Room really pushes is
They
that
train.
kind of stuff. So makes sense.
They lift. They fight. They focus. They improve. He's tough on them. They're feeling his pressure.
I don't know who that guy is, but it looks like he may be maybe a coach or something in that specific area. I know they have designated people to work at different things, so he might be someone that does fitness. That's what it looks like. I don't know who that guy is though, but that's what it seems to be.
They'll thank him later for his kindness.
Yet again, we have Iggy. He is looking out on everybody else. Maybe another signifier to be in control, powerful, things like that. Yet again, I did say I have no clue if this is actually the trailer, because it appears to be multiple, if it seems like that. But what if they keep on going? Why not? see all the content that they gave us.
This man I have watched for a long time.
I train. I lift.
I've taught him my secrets.
Okay, so there is a snake ring that they all wear. And this is something that was actually mentioned in a video I was watching. So the cobra, apparently, I don't know if you remember when I mentioned the book earlier, the Scarlet, whatever that other word was. I forget the second half of the title. But in that book, there was mentioned things about cobras. And they all have rings. And I guess apparently they look similar to something. There was a tie-in there, and I forget the whole tie-in. But I just want to point that out because that is like a close-up of kind of what their rings look like that they wear.
I get stronger, my focus clearer.
He knows our ways.
I move forward faster. I show my receipt.
You know what I find very odd, and I do want to make this a point. Notice how Iggy so far has been the only one. Andrew Tate hasn't shown up in any of them. I know his brother really isn't super involved with all this stuff, but you would definitely think that Andrew would have showed up. I mean, we're a minute 39 in. It's a 6-minute video, so maybe he'll show up later. I definitely think it's a little bit strange that Andrew hasn't shown up, especially because he is more popular as opposed to like Iggy or whoever. I don't know who this guy is. Maybe he's more popular. I have no clue who he is. He looks like he's like maybe a professional fighter of some sort. Maybe I'm not sure, so I'm not gonna say anything. Maybe if you guys know who that is, comment down below and let me know, because I genuinely I don't know.
I make it real.
Now he is ready to lead. This is the war room. We are the war room.
I am the war room.
So it seemed what I was saying about him being possibly somewhat of a leader, a coach, somewhat in that kind of field was right, especially based on what they were doing, what they just showed in the video. It kind of looked like they were like, Iggy was giving him some power in the war room, definitely from what I got from that.
Tonight we feast, my brothers. The best juicy steaks. The sweetest wines, the strongest whiskey, smoothest cigars. We laugh, we sing, for tomorrow.
I think this is a great representation of what they kind of want to show younger men trying to get people into the war room. Look at what they're eating, look at what they're drinking, look at all this stuff that they get. If you make it up, if you put in the work, you can have all these luxuries. This is definitely, I think, a good signifier of what a lot of young men want. So using it, I think, is a smart tactic to lure people in and want more people to sign up for the war room.
Tomorrow we climb higher, we lift heavier, we train harder than we ever have before. We are the war room of Wudan. To Wudan.
To Wudan.
To Andrew Tate.
To Andrew Tate.
So when they did the toast at the end, like I said, they just said to Andrew Tate. A little bit weird, I think, a little strange. I don't know who the first person they said is. I don't know if that's a god or something that you should. I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard that word before. I know, maybe you guys are like, are you kidding me? I've never heard that word before, so I really don't know what the first part is. But yet again, I think it's just pushing the ideas like, oh, look at what you could have if you sign up. I also make a point though, a lot of these people, it's a very small group of people, right, that's in these videos, obviously. But there are a lot of people in the war room. So these are definitely more like the top, more elite dudes in the war room, as opposed to just general admission, like I talked about way like in the beginning of the video. These seem to be like your top guys in the war room.
Today, we test their strength. Today, we expose their weakness. Today, they face the ordeal.
So it's like there's now 3 of them who are more like in charge. I don't, yet again, we are 3 minutes in and still no Andrew Tate has shown up. He's been mentioned. Now maybe that's because they didn't think he'd be needed in this promotional video and things like that, but I definitely think it's a little bit weird. I want to comment on the fact of what he just did. I think that is a huge point because he is supposed to be this world-renowned hypnotist kind of thing. Now, I definitely think it's very interesting at the fact that his ring just like kind of started light up, then he poofed. Obviously, I get it; it's fake, but I definitely think it signifies that he has power, maybe leadership, things like that. I know I'm like reaching here. I'm just pointing out small things, trying to look for signs and stuff. Yet again, it is polling. It's just conspiracy. It's not legit. I don't have facts to back this stuff up, but it's just from what I'm getting and different signs you use like within like literature. A lot of times things like this would signify power, strength. So I definitely think that some of this is definitely signifying power and strength.
Struggle.
This hurts. This is tough.
This makes me mad.
So right there, they're helping each other. I definitely think that shows that they're with each other, they're sticking with each other, which is yet again kind of reiterating the ideas that they want everyone to be really close in the war room and rely on each other. That definitely showed that as a whole, obviously. And I think that just further signified those ideas.
This isn't gonna end. Now we begin. Focus. Grit.
Grind.
Dig. I will not be stopped.
Looks like a lot of training, a lot of strength and training. To signify almost that they're stronger, they're getting stronger together. If you join the war room, you are going to be stronger as a whole because the war room pushes your boundaries, pushes what you thought you were capable of doing. Obviously, showing what they're showing in this video. Obviously, a lot of people don't think they can do this, but these guys didn't either, and they did. And they came over that, they overcome it. And I think it's just, yet again, just reiterating similar ideas.
They've conquered their weakness. Now, they'll conquer worlds.
Okay, I think right there, that ending was really impactful, saying that they conquered their weakness, now they can conquer worlds. I think it definitely signifies, if these men are training to become stronger, and once they reach a certain point, they're able to have so much influence, say like Andrew Tate does. They're able to break out of the matrix, like Andrew Tate would say. They're out of the matrix now. They have overcome things, and now they are strong enough to be able to put down their own guidelines, their own things, and stuff like that. I feel like that last saying is definitely very impactful to what the whole war room kind of really speaks values to, really, and what the war room stands for.
Welcome, my brothers, to the Iron Shadows. Here I will share with you my secrets. You will learn the power of hypnosis, the magic of story.
Like I said, he is a, pretty well-known hypnotist, I guess. I definitely think it's look at the book that he just showed. It's very old timey, gives off like spells, kind of stuff like that almost. I guess that kind of goes with the realm of hypnotism and that kind of stuff, but it's definitely it's interesting, I guess. Definitely interesting.
Storytelling, and begin developing a skill set of exquisite precision communications that you will use to transform yourselves into men of purpose, men of will, men of power, able to generate new opportunities for you to bend reality itself. This is the Iron Shadows.
No, I would love to know, what is the Iron Shadows? What is that? I'm very curious because that's what this is called, the War Room Iron Shadows 2. What is that? I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I wish I did know because I feel like I'm missing something here. But yeah, yet again, they're just showing strength and stuff like that throughout this video. But yeah, Iron Shadows 2, I'm very curious, what is that? I might have to do some digging because I don't know what that is. And that's a little bit, it's interesting. It says War Room, but then Iron Shadow, what's Iron Shadow? I don't know. It's a little bit, I've never heard that one before.
This is the War Room of Andrew Tate.
Okay, so I think that's it. I don't think there's much more to it. I mean, I guess I'll watch the last couple seconds.
War Room.
Okay. So yeah, that is pretty much that video. I thought that was a little bit interesting. I'm not sure what was going on. I have no clue what the Iron Shadows 2 is. Definitely very curious about that now, but I think a big point to point out with this video is Andrew Tate was not really present at all. And you would think a promotional video Andrew Tate would be in it. That's what I would think. You know, he's a big figurehead of, the War Room. He wasn't in it. So it's definitely an interesting choice done by marketing, and that it was an interesting choice. I'm not gonna lie, it was very interesting. It was maybe a way I wouldn't have personally went, but they decided to go that way. Obviously, they have a lot of people coming in, so it's not really affecting them one way or the other. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna share my overall opinions on the War Room, if I think it's a cult, and all that stuff. So the War Room. Is it a cult? Is it not a cult? I mean, I think you could say it is a cult, and I don't think Andrew Tate himself would deny that it's a cult. I think the word cult can be used for a lot of different things that a lot of people don't think is a cult. Like, a lot of religions, like almost every religion is basically a cult in theory. They're not bad cults, I think cult is used with, like, bad because when you think of a cult, you think of, like, just a lot of bad around it, right? Like, a lot of things that is illegal going on and these, horrible things. But I think cult is more or less like just a group of people that believe in the same things that all get together. They share the same beliefs and things like that. So, yes, I think this definitely has cult-like ideas. I don't think, from what I know, from what the public knows, it doesn't seem like anything horrible is going on there other than the messaging that's going, then obviously the messaging I don't agree with at all. But other than that, I mean, a secret society, cult, kind of same thing, I guess you can say. They have a lot of people. Now, one thing I did want to point out about this, and I think that this is something that I want to address when it comes to these meetings that they have, the things that Andrew Tate flaunts about to everybody, the meetings, the fun, the get-togethers, all that kind of stuff. I truly believe that's only the higher up people. There are a lot of people in the war room. I think there's I don't even know how many members. There's a lot. There is easily, I think, 400, if not more, I think. And, obviously not all these people are going to go meet up together. Like, that's just not realistic. the lower people who just say enter the war room, or newer people who don't have tons of money, I don't think going to these places and these crazy meetups and dinners and things like that. Those are not the people going. It is the higher class society people. It is the people who are tight with Andrew Tate, right? Like, those are the people that are going to be showing up to these events and really getting invited to these events. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not in the war room, so I don't really know what's going on behind closed doors. And we might not ever know because, yet again, a lot of it is secret, and if people expose it, they can get sued. So you never know what's really going to be happening, I guess. So it's kind of just whatever you think. Maybe things will be leaked over time, but it's what we know right now. I definitely think it can be a cult. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. I'm not saying all cults are bad in the sense. I think a lot of things are cult-like religion, like I said, very cult-like. And yet again, I'm a religious person, but I definitely think like the idea is like a cult. It's not a bad cult at all, but I think that a cult is seen as being so bad when in reality it's not always. So I definitely think it could be a cult. You could classify it as that. I mean, you definitely could classify it as that. Now, also, I want to give a couple shout outs to some people because I have to look on my computer because I have their usernames written down. I watched some of the videos, and the videos were very helpful when it came to this research. A lot of the information I did get from Vice. Their in the BBC, their documentary is phenomenal. Both of them on Andrew Tate are phenomenal. So much information. Like, if you really want to get a lot of information on Andrew Tate, watch both of them. The second one's more on the War Room, which did get a lot of information from that documentary. There's a lot exposed in that documentary. So there's that. I do want to let you know. So some accounts that I got some stuff from: Patrick CC. I mean, all these YouTubers are pretty popular. They all have way more subscribers than me, but I do want to shout them out yet again because I did use some of their research and stuff that they found. Vitamin D, and then the news movement. So those are three I want to shout out. Those are three that really helped me with a lot of research. Like I said, Vice also helped a lot. They had tons of information and stuff like that. So obviously I'm going to give them some credit because all this research I purely was not able to find myself per se. I would say YouTubers, things like that, have gotten access to certain things. So definitely helped with this video. But yeah, that is it. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I hope that you guys maybe learned something new from it. I know I definitely did. I always do, but this time a lot of this stuff I did not know. So it was a little bit shocking to learn all of it. I think it's interesting doing, this is my second part of really a deep dive into Andrew Tate, and I think it's very interesting because when I first knew Andrew Tate, I didn't know all this stuff. I knew surface level. I did not know how extensive this stuff was. So I definitely think it's very interesting learning all this information. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below, what you think. Do you think it's a cult? Do you think it's not? Share your thoughts down below because, no judgment. We're just having conversation. And if you're an Andrew Tate fan, tell me why. If you're watching this, let me know why you like him, and yeah, let me know down below. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys hopefully next week or whenever the next video comes out. Bye!